Welcome to EnVision Center News, where we discuss community impact and involvement with today's nonprofit leaders and philanthropists.
Ladies, welcome and thank you for joining me on the podcast. Before we get into this really quite exciting new nonprofit that you guys are standing up, let's just get a little bit about your biography, your history. Can you each tell me your name and then a little bit about yourself? Doesn't matter what order.
Okay. Well, my name is Elissabeth and DeFreitas, and I've been in Sandpoint since 1997. I say that my journey here was really remarkable and was all spirit-led. And I came to be part of the Life Care Center here in Sandpoint when it was first opening. So my background has been in social work for about 3 decades.
Okay.
Just before we started working with the Friendship Station, I was working with our local hospice, our Bonner General Hospice, as a volunteer and bereavement coordinator. And so a lot of my work has been with end of life, also with the homeless, and with people who are, there we go. Sorry.
You're in really, it's emotional work that you're involved with.
Yeah, it has been very emotional work, but very joy-filled work.
Yeah.
It is a blessing, I feel, to be able to have the opportunity to walk with people at the end of life or to team with others that are making the journey with someone at the end of life. And it has just been very joyous. That has been a very big part of my life.
Wonderful. Well, God bless you for that.
Well,
And
thank
very
you.
important work that you're doing. All right.
Hi, I'm Denny. My full name is Denise, but I work with people who have hearing loss sometimes and people who are struggling with dementia, and that doesn't seem to go well, so Denny Williamson is my name now. Okay. And I used to write under that name also. I have been a freelance writer and researcher. I started my career after college in Pennsylvania with the Bureau of State Parks, and I was a field naturalist and environmental education specialist. And my endorsement is K through 12, but now I'd say it's like K through 88 or something like that. I've really realized that environmental education techniques that work for little kids and teenagers also are really appropriate for people who have memory loss or memory change. I've been in Sandpoint for almost 10 years now, and I am a poster caregiver for what I'm actually advocating for. I came to Sandpoint specifically because Sandpoint had a day respite program for people with Alzheimer's. And my husband and I were working overseas in community development when he started having neurological changes. And I had to make a decision when we came back to the States, how am I going to finish well on this journey with him? And I had a son who was living in Sandpoint. And so I had to make a decision, stay in Pennsylvania or come to Sandpoint. Never even thought about living in North Idaho.
Yeah.
And so then I called around, and one of the resources that tipped the scales for me to come here was a day respite program for people suffering with memory loss. So it's kind of ironic that 10 years later I'm sitting here advocating for that resource to continue in our community.
Yeah. Can you ladies sort of define what a day respite, what is that? What does that program look like?
Well, for me, it meant that my husband was at the stage where he couldn't be left alone. He still was social and enjoyed company and wanted to contribute. He had been a chemistry physics teacher, very, very invested in making sure that other people were on track to live life to the full, and now suddenly it was possible that he could just be home alone with me all day long because he needed supervision. But a day respite program was where I could feel safe. He felt it was his place. When we drove up to the place that was working when he was living with the disease, it was, hey, here's your friends. Hey, Gary, come on in. There's a coffee ready for you. Today we're going to be playing one of your favorite games. And he felt that was his place. While he had his place, the first time that happened to me, I actually sat in the car and cried because I did not know what to do with 3 hours at a time by myself.
Yeah.
So now as I help other caregivers, I give them a piece of paper. What do you need to do? What do you want to do? What do you have to do? What are some things that you would like to start doing again to help them with the process that I found myself in of needing to get away and having a break, and that's what respite is, a break from continuous caregiving and how to use that time well.
Do different day respite programs operate differently, or are they all kind of the same? This is a place where you can come have a cup of coffee, hang out with folks while your caregiver gets some time to do whatever they need to do. Are they all sort of structured that way?
Not all.
Okay.
And the program, the day program that Denny and her husband were involved with was a drop-in program. The Respite for All model is the one that we're under. We're a chapter of them.
Okay.
And it is more a program that involves activities and engagement and connection, and it is all volunteer run. The Day Break Center was staff and the people that were dropping in. But with the Respite for All program, it's all volunteer based. So you have more of a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio of volunteers to a person that's a friend that is coming in to participate and to find connections. And so similarly, we offer a meal and a place of connection, but our activities are varied, and we have a lot of volunteer support.
Okay. And is it still drop off, or do you have to make an appointment, or how does that work?
It's not a drop off, but it is something that we will connect with the caregiver and the person that is interested in being a part. And there is an application process so that we can gauge how we can help them make that step towards this experience of the program. Because one of the things that we have found, or at least Daphne has found, and other people that have done the Respite for All programs in many communities across America, is that sometimes the caregivers are a little reluctant to say, okay, I'm all good for handing off my loved one to these strangers.
Yeah.
And Danny, you felt called to that in your way, but there are many people that they're not so
Yeah, because you
ready
read
to do
horror
that.
stories sometimes about people being abused and things like that.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
And so some of the things that seem to be a good match for the Respite for All program, it's a model that has been tried and true across the United States over, I think, 60 different chapters of the Respite for All program. And the model works well. I mean, that's the thing that they're finding. This model really works well because of the way that there is that personal engagement, or I want to say that first connection with the caregiver and the people that are involved. And then there's that steady connection that we can help and assist that care partner in feeling a little more comfortable. And some people have said, that's okay. You know, if you think you might need us down the road, just give us a call and we're going to be here for you. And we're here to walk the journey with you. And so sometimes they'll be in thought a little bit and they'll go, well, maybe I could try it out. And then once they do and find that their person comes back and they're all excited, and they might not tell you about everything they did, but they come back feeling that sense of connection and joy from the experience that they shared. And like Denny was saying, Gary was home alone with you, and he was a very social person. But then all of a sudden you have an opportunity to be with other participants and volunteers. And you can't really tell the difference between the participants and volunteers because people wear name tags, but there's no delineation between volunteer, participant. So everybody is like building community together, which is what I love about it. It's not like us and them. It is, we are all together making this journey, and we're here to have fun. We're here to connect with one another, create fellowship, have a meal together, and really have some fun.
Yeah.
And what, Denny, what you were sharing about Gary is he had a lot of gifts, and he wanted to be on purpose somehow. That was part of your ministry.
Well, and that's an ironic part of our friendship and partnership now. We're both still working as volunteer directors, though there is a financial base to it when people participate and sign up and get to join the program. There is a daily fee, and it is a model that we are running through the Respite for All Foundation. So we've been going by their playbook on how to create a local chapter in Sandpoint of a nationally known program that started in Alabama with one woman trying to figure out how to use the resources available in a church situation, volunteers, and also meeting space that would be available during the week, how to capitalize on those two things to serve the community. So she came up with a Respite for All model where churches donate their space. In Sandpoint, that'll be the Sandpoint United Methodist Church. They're donating their space and some of their administrative time to make this possible. So that's one difference in this ministry model and other respite services, is that we're working with a donor base. We don't have to pay rent for the facility. And like Elissabeth said, we're doing this podcast so that when you hear it, you say, yes, I want to volunteer, because we really need it. It is a no labels program. So when Elissabeth and I are in the room with other people, you won't know whether we're coming because we have dementia or whether we're there to serve. So that's the kind of program that Gary wanted too. He didn't want to be labeled. He didn't want to be called out. So Gary died in 2021, and I continued on. Even from that moment, we finished well, and I've continued on from that moment to May of last year, advocating for our community to find creative ways to help people who are living with dementia. I know your facility because I came knocking at your door several times. Well, there's grant money, there's this, there's that. And what happened in May of last year is when the facility closed that was serving families who were caring for people with dementia, there were no resources. There was no backup plan. So there was a small listening session. I love listening sessions in the community. I called a listening session at my house on the front porch. If you're a caregiver, if you're concerned about people living with dementia in our area and they don't have a day respite program now, what are we as the community going to do? Elissabeth shows up. Elissabeth knew Gary because she's now caring for someone who has dementia, but 5 or 6 years ago, that person was actually one of Gary's caregivers.
Really?
So
Oh my goodness.
she was advocating for Gary. Gary dies in 2021. Now it's 2025, and I'm advocating for the person that she's caring for. So, hey, that's a small community for you, right? We have to work together. And so I came because there's a respite program, and I'm staying because there's a respite program, you know?
And that's a beautiful segue to talk about why we're here, because when you are living with someone with dementia or Alzheimer's or brain change, it's not an easy road. And so that mission to want to be able to provide that special respite place for the caregiver is big. I can remember times when, Danny, you just wanted to have one little time to sleep, or just have a little moment where you didn't have to do something. And it's not an easy road for sure. And the person who's living with dementia, they have purpose. Even though they have a loss of memory, say, or even a loss of functioning, they want to be on purpose. That's something that my friend says often. Well, how can I help? How can I be of help? Even if it's something as simple as, can you carry this from here to there? It's something that gives him a sense of value and purpose, and to feel a part of the family, to feel part of and have meaningful relationships. And that's why I love this model of the Respite for All, because it is all about connecting and building relationships and really honoring and valuing that person for the gift that they are. Because I know that person with dementia might not remember you. They might not remember what they did that day, but you know what? They're going to remember how they felt with you. They're going to remember that feeling of joy that you took the time to just, have an experience with them.
So at that listening session that I had at my house, we said, so what are we going to do? And I had taken a course through the United Methodist Church Discipleship Ministries online called Ministry with the Forgotten, how to minister to people who have dementia. Because my husband was a retired pastor as well as a teacher, there was a spiritual component running through all the sections of his journey. And it was something I saw to be really important. So I had invested in taking the course. And during that course, Ministry with the Forgotten, they mentioned the Respite for All model because it started in a United Methodist Church in the Southeast. So sitting in the little listening session on my front porch, Elissabeth comes and she brings a book called Reclaiming Joy, written by the same person who started Respite for All.
The founder,
So
Daphne Johnson.
two people in our little listening session, she and I, said, "Oh, so you know about Respite for All." The next thing we did is we contacted Respite for All, I think, if I have this right, and almost the very next day, they were on the phone back to us. And then they were on a Zoom call with us, and they treated us like we were the only people in the United States that were involved in trying to start a new program. And they've been like that ever since. They have very good training modules that are in video form, print form, and they donated them to us. When they saw what we were trying to do and how we were volunteers just doing the work because of our passion for it, they gave us like $600 worth of training materials. And then afterwards, they continue to follow to this day. We went down in June to Boise, where Daphne came for her first training ever in Idaho. Yes. And we flew down and took the training with her to see how she trains volunteers, which gives us a little bit more confidence to do the same training here in Sandpoint. On August 20th, we're going to have the training. But, this program works, and I am part of the Alzheimer's Disease and Related Dementia Alliance for Idaho. I volunteer on that state think group of how can we help people in Idaho with memory loss, dementia, Alzheimer's. I work as a volunteer Dementia Friends Idaho champion, which means that there's a 90-minute session available to anybody who wants to learn more about how to be a friend to somebody with dementia. I do both of those things, but I also do Respite for All because that's where the rubber hits the road. There's a lot of good training, and anybody can learn to be a friend with somebody with dementia. But where do you go as a friend then? Where do friends go to meet so that they actually have 4 hours of interaction with somebody? This is not book learning. This is not best practices. This is a community-spirited, a real physical place where you come and join with your friends. So it's putting the best of what we know about how to encourage people with dementia to live well into practice. Yeah.
Can you talk about the name of the...
Yeah.
We haven't really... I think someone mentioned it maybe once, but the name of your new nonprofit and why you chose it.
I think I'd like to raise my hand on that.
She thought it out.
Okay.
Yeah, Friendship Station to me is I looked this up before we came on today, and I think there's between 40 and 50 trains that still go through town every day. I guess anybody who lives here knows that's true, right? And honestly, when I hear a whistle now, morning, noon, night, or middle of the night, I think Friendship Station, So in the 1880s, Sandpoint really put some stakes in the ground because the Pacific Railroad was coming through. I mean, it was a very big thing ever since the 1880s to have a railroad station here. So a railroad station, I say, can be a rest stop. It can be a destination. It can be a place for departure. And I see all that as Friendship Station. It's a rest place because it's respite. It's a destination because when you get the disease, you get a ticket to ride. And as Gary and I used to say to each other, we never wanted this ticket to ride. If we could get a refund on this ticket and say, we don't want to go to Dementia Land, we would do it in a minute. Mm-hmm. But you don't get that choice. And then it's also a place of departure, because we know that these friends that we make are going to be there for a time. But to be part of Friendship Station, you have to be able to feed yourself and take care of your personal needs in the men's or women's room. And so when that starts to fade, and it will, then we need to find a good way to say goodbye to those friends and assure them that there are other good destinations on their way until their final destination. Mm-hmm. So I felt like Friendship Station was a really good word or phrase to say local welcoming place on life's journey, specific to Sandpoint, Idaho.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Is this like explicitly kind of a Christian organization, or is it just kind of run by Christians? You know what I mean?
That's good question.
I think it's a community-based program that is definitely supported by the church, because they're offering us this place. And it was a model that Daphne Johnson created in the basement of the church in Birmingham, Alabama. And that was how they started. And they recognized the power of that by knowing that a lot of churches, service is a really essential part of their movement.
Sure.
And Daphne calls it a movement of spirit. You know, where truly that we're giving from our heart and spirit to create the space for people to come and to connect and to reclaim joy each and every day. Because with dementia, you know, sometimes it's not that easy to find a gift of joy in a day when you're struggling with memory and different functioning that you're not able to do. I think that word, you know, just saying all Christian organization can maybe put a barrier to say that it would only be for church-based people, but it's not. It's really for the whole community, but it is a movement that started in that way, and it's open to all. It does not matter what religious affiliation, non-religious affiliation, is open to everyone in our community with a heart of love.
Yeah, and I think it might be a good time to say a little bit about our terminology. A volunteer is someone who would take 4 hours of training that the Respite for All program provides so that they know how to best volunteer in a Respite for All setting like Friendship Station. Volunteers don't have to be from a church. Right. They don't have to have any particular spiritual persona to become a volunteer. They just need to know that they have a heart to serve. The participant can come from anywhere. Yeah. And that person is the person with the diagnosis who will be enrolled. Some people might have enough capacity to enroll themselves, but they'll still have to have somebody looking over their shoulder. That person's called the caregiver. Often it'll be the caregiver that has to do the paperwork to get the participant to enroll. So we have caregivers, we have participants, we have volunteers. They don't have to come from any spiritual part of the Venn diagram. Yeah. It's open to all. Then the final really important component for us are people who want to support. And we've talked about the role of something that we would call a conductor. You know, so if anybody's listening to the podcast and they had an organization or a business and they want to become a conductor, we'd like to meet with them because it would mean that they would do the shout outs for their own organization, whether it's a restaurant they own or a business or another nonprofit. They do the shout out. Like this month, Respite for All is doing, or Friendship Station is doing a dog food drive. So can everybody drop off dog food so that we can do a maybe a volunteer ministry to pack Meals on Wheels for puppies this month or something like that. So we'd like conductors in the area to be people who will advocate in their own church or organization and be the touch person that we can go to say, this is what we're doing this month. This is how you can get people involved. Of course, we'd like donations too.
Yeah, everybody, yeah.
Yeah, so that goes without saying, doesn't it?
Right.
That's why we're on the program, because we want donations.
Yeah, everyone needs money and volunteers.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
So,
And volunteers are truly the heart
Yeah.
of the Friendship Station.
And when is that training coming up?
That training is coming up on Wednesday, August 20th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And they can contact us by phone or with our website or our email, which is sandpointfriendshipstation@gmail.com.
And that's how they sign up, or can you drop in,
Oh,
show up and do
Well,
the training?
you could drop in and show up. It would be great if you could give us a heads up
Yeah.
that you're interested in so we can tell you more about what to expect and about the program. But there's no, okay, you had the training, so now you need to volunteer. That's not how we work. Is basically try us. See if this, meets up in your heart. If this is something you'd like to do. After you've taken the 4-hour training, then we have some other hoops. If you are wanting to volunteer, there is an application, background check.
Of course.
And the United Methodist Church asks all volunteers to go through a safe sanctuary training. And that's just basic to help people navigate the physical location to make sure we can all be dedicated to keeping safety as the top of our list, which of course we want to do.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And how often will these trainings be? Like if you miss this one, will it be yearly, quarterly, monthly?
We haven't thought that up.
Yeah, don't know yet. So just check back in at the website.
It is important that we have a good amount of volunteers starting our launch.
Yes.
Because Denny has already talked to many people that are interested in being participants. And we like to see at least a 2-to-1 ratio, like 2 volunteers to 1 participant. So that can really grow our numbers. If we have, say, 12 participants, then we would really need to have a good amount of volunteers to create that sense of community and safety for this to happen well.
Yeah. And what about, I'm thinking about my own family. What about kiddos? I know I've heard and read that like people with dementia, having children around them is a wonderful
Yes,
thing.
it is.
How would you get kids in the door?
Yeah, we've talked about that. Did you want to?
Well, yeah, I would love any homeschoolers that would like to pursue that as part of their curriculum or how they're going to structure their year. Yes, we're interested in that. And I hope to participate in going to the high school to talk to the people who are doing the CNA training, any social or community service opportunities, yes. Depending on their age, will depend on how much of a background check they have to have and what kind of supervision they'll have. But yes, we are very interested in that. I have grandchildren who are already very invested because they helped with their grandfather. I live intergenerationally, and so they already say wise things at 8 and 12, like, yes, we know about respite for all, and we would be very good to work with people.
Yeah.
And the person that she was taking care of the other day, he came to my house. He didn't want to get out of the car.
Right.
But he had kind of a little bit of a gleam in his eye, and he said something profound. He said, I think children live here. And then we said, yes, children live here. And they even knew that you were coming. And they even put up a soccer net for you. And then they brought out a beach ball, and her companion got out of the car and taught them how to head a soccer ball. So from not wanting to get out of the car to full participation happened because children were involved.
It
Yeah.
was huge. It was huge.
So yes,
I've
definitely.
heard of programs that are basically kind of like, I guess they're actually sort of like respite daycare combined,
They are.
where it's people will literally drop off, there'll be people overseeing the children, but like kindergarten age children
Yes,
with
yes.
elderly folks. And then they get like a few hours together, and there's a waiting list because it's been so wonderful for the families of the small children and the families of the elderly folks. I don't think they always have dementia. Sometimes they're just, in a retirement home type of setting. But it's just amazing how important what that does for both brains, the little person's brain and the older person's brain.
It
Yeah.
sparks the heart.
Yeah. And if anybody who's listening knows anything about Montessori philosophy. We actually have part of our training is the Montessori method for working with people who have memory loss.
Really?
So the Montessori structure goes the whole way through, from making sure that your 2-year-old has the purposeful activity of folding napkins to the 88-year-old purposely folding napkins with the little one. So you can see that these skills really transfer. We're really keyed in to making that happen in our community. Yeah. And we like Sandpoint because we know a lot of people are looking for simple, meaningful, value-oriented ways to live. And so doing environmental work, doing work with plants, doing work with food, cooking, we just have a lot of possibilities here. And
Yeah.
that includes pets.
Yes.
Yeah, we will definitely incorporate pets into the program too.
Yeah, there's a weaving of a lot of different activities from art and music
Yeah.
and movement and just enhancing the cognitive and different things you can do. And it's amazing to see, like one facility, I'm thinking about my friend, he was a soccer player and he really has a good hand coordination, and if you get him close to a beach ball, he can do that really well, and it just brings him so much joy because it's something he can do. It's exciting to watch someone light up because it's something they can do well when they know there's other things they can't figure things out like they used to, but something that they can do. It's fun.
So will there be opportunities for people to volunteer if they have some kind of skill they want to share, like teach a cooking class or play an instrument or whatever?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. With music
definitely.
and art, absolutely, and movement. Perhaps some chair yoga or different things that we can do together.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So when do you actually open the doors? When does that happen? Or maybe that's dependent on how the training goes and how many volunteers
depends
you
on
get?
our training. We're hoping, or we're visioning, like some part in September, probably towards mid to late September. We'd really like to have that opportunity to open. And we're hoping that we have many, many volunteers that are just saying, boy, we're just looking for you. And I have said this to Denny, when we've gone through times of doubt sometimes, to say, what are we doing here? It's like, it feels really like a big thing, like a big project. But then we'd have these situations that come up that would just mirror for us how important this is. It's like synchronicities happen where it's just like, oh my goodness, this is just something beyond our imagining that someone is offering us now, or somebody is just now bringing this next thing up. And it's like affirming this, we're on the path. And it's really important that we continue to move forward. And I believe our community is waiting to learn about us. I mean, so strongly in my heart, just because of what you were sharing in the very beginning. It's like you came here because of the day program, and now that program doesn't exist. But to know that there are resources for people and families that are walking through this journey is just essential in my mind.
I agree completely. And then, not to go on too much of a tangent, but are there respite programs for other ailments or people who have, family members that they're taking care of that might not have dementia but have some other kind of intense disability?
Can you give us some examples?
I don't know, maybe somebody's like in a wheelchair or something, and so they need constant help moving around, or somebody doesn't have dementia, but they have some kind of mental, very low IQ type of person, maybe severe autism, or Down syndrome is kind of on a spectrum as well as to how much care how much eyeballs on you need at all times. Things like that. Are there other respite care opportunities for those kinds of conditions in the area? Do you know? You might not know.
Well, I do know that in terms of Down syndrome, the PISNI is an organization that works with that population, and they have done an amazing work and amazing ministry with people. In terms of the Respite for All program, it's not just dementia. It could be brain changes. It could be someone who is autistic, and they could pretty much
can participate in the Friendship Station too?
Yeah.
Okay.
They can fill out an application. I mean, the application is a kind of an interview application. We want to know the potential participant and their care person and really know whether this would be a good fit or not. But like for Down syndrome, often Alzheimer's will start to, or dementia will start to come in like when you're 40, 45. Often it's a companion kind of thing. So that everybody could ask, and yes, that's a good thing. And right now we have somebody that is recovering from a stroke, and he probably will participate.
Gotcha.
So it has to be a win-win situation. But really, honestly, even if it wasn't win-win, they'd still benefit from our talking to them talking to us. And we are really trying to connect with the Community Caregiver Network. We just had a meeting with them a couple weeks ago to understand that we have an advocate up here for caregivers. We could give caregivers her number. They could call and say, I'm a caregiver and this is the situation and I need help. So if we can't help, we can still be a clearinghouse resource for them to find some other way to help.
And the same, similar to if someone needs to leave the program for a reason where they might be in a diminished capacity to be able to really do the social experience. And so we would definitely want to work with a caregiver to help them build a bridge and look at different support that might be able to match up for them. In the community.
Gotcha. All of that's beautiful. So we've talked about kind of the origin of the name and how you ladies came to say, okay, it's time for us to start something new. We know we've got a training coming up on the 20th and then hopefully opening doors in September at some point. Always need volunteers. Is there anything that we didn't mention that we
do want to mention something that this is really part of our community connection is that we're going to be teaming with the Sandpoint Senior Center. They're going to be doing our meals. And so we haven't worked out all the logistics yet, but they've already been in agreement that they want to team with us. So each week, whatever is on their menu, we'll be able to connect with them and have that be our food and our lunch during our time together.
Awesome. Already those connections, those cross nonprofit connections, and we've had them on the podcast before too. So it's just great to hear. Anything from you, Denny, that you want to make sure people know?
I'd like to say, is that anybody who's listening or pass it on to somebody else, you think, oh, I think that person could benefit from hearing a bit about this. If you don't decide to stay in the program after you do a volunteer training or whatever, you'll still be more equipped. If you go down to the grocery store and somebody's wandering around and they can't find their car, you'll be able to assess a little bit more, like, do I need to intervene or do I just need to watch? And if I do need to intervene because the person really looks like they might be in a safety situation, then that's how we grow our community, to be helpful to each other, and to be watchful and mindful of each other. So I think that no matter what level you think after you hear this that you want to participate, we will be participating in some ways because dementia is on the rise. And we have more seniors like us who are living in the area. So it's really likely that this isn't just going to be a theory. This is going to actually happen to you at the beach or whatever. And then you're going to think, oh, Respite for All. Oh, Friendship Station. There are some friends already established in my town that could be helpful to these people. And hopefully you could give them a card or say, I remember it's Sandpoint Friendship Station. Look that up. I think it's on Facebook. I think there's a website. I think I saw a flyer at the grocery store bulletin board. Why don't we network together? We just want to be helpful.
And I think it's important what you're sharing, Danny, because I think sometimes there is a stigma around dementia and Alzheimer's. And often caregivers are kind of doing it alone. Sometimes they don't have the help or support of family members. Sometimes they're doing it by themselves without a family member. And so I think when we talk about there are 73,000 caregivers in Idaho alone that are probably unpaid caregivers that are doing this work and walking with someone with dementia. That's huge. And I think there are many people that are not even knowing where to turn. So I think the more that we can get the word out to support a caregiver, and the person with dementia to be able to create a value in their life and a support and a time of respite and a time of self-care, and to be able to also provide some support to them through their journey. We do have an organization here that Jan Griffith provides caregiving support to people with dementia, caregivers. Let's say the first and third
Thursday. They meet at Marigold Cafe, I think.
Yeah, 1 o'clock. And so that's a resource that's here. But we also hope that through our connection that we'll be able to make a better support to caregivers and kind of listen in to see what ways that we can support them, whether it's through the process of loss that they're going through on a daily basis sometimes. So we're hoping as we grow that we're going to be able to tap into, be a better resource for all the people involved.
Yeah, and I think that kind of brings us full circle because we met as caregivers. She was helping me. Now I'm helping her. So we've walked the walk and now we're talking the talk. But to me, it's really important. I can tell you it's the gift I never wanted. I never wanted to say that I took care of my husband for 10 years because he moved from the amazing, capable teacher and pastor that he was to somebody that couldn't be left alone for 1 minute, day or night. So I think the fact that Elissabeth and I have walked and are walking this way should give other people the courage to come forward. When I wanted him to go to a day program, he didn't want to go. He didn't want to go. But we started volunteering in the garden, helping in the garden. And then they asked him in for a cup of coffee because we had worked in the garden. We sat and we started talking. And then I made an excuse that I wanted to go to a women's Bible study. And he couldn't go to a women's Bible study. That made sense to him. You want to go have coffee while I take an hour away. Jan Griffith's group was also important to me. I went to Jan's group, and the center that I went to said, if you're going to go to caregiver support, we will help you to keep your loved ones safe while you go, which is probably something eventually when we have more hours we can work with. So, we're back to where we started from. We've walked the walk. We never wanted this gift. That's what I said. The gift I never wanted is something that now I want to share with others, that we can help you build confidence as a caregiver to be in this together. Yeah. We have the support of the medical people in the area know that we're doing this. They're cheering us on. We have, support from businesses that they would like to figure out how to bless caregivers. So that is something I like to work on. And as we get more volunteers and more capacity, I think Alyssa and I will probably be more than willing to step away and try to build that caregiver support to bless them and to encourage them, because it is a long, hard road. It is.
It's a long journey, and sometimes they call it the longest loss because there's losses, incremental losses through your relationship. There's pieces of the relationship that's dropping off. I might not remember you as my wife anymore. I might not remember you as my husband anymore. But I know I love you. I had this funny story just recently, as my care of Dan and Pam, and he came up to her and said, I want to marry you again. He didn't remember that they were married, but he wanted to marry her, and I thought that was the most darling thing, that, the feeling, the love, and the connection. He can't always remember that you are my wife, but I know that I love you, and it's just that special heart connection. But one of the things I want to mention, too, is that the Respite for All program is a social model, so it's not a medical model. So we're all about social. And that's what makes us a little bit different than some other programs that might be more medically oriented. But we're a social program, and it benefits everyone. So the volunteers have the gift of being present. The people who come as a friend have the opportunity to build friendships and community, and the caregiver has that time away where they can just be unto themselves and find something that they want to do for 4 hours. And sometimes that's a strange thing.
Yeah.
When you're doing something 24/7, then all of a sudden you have this gift of time.
I think all the moms with littles can
Yes.
kind of relate,
Yeah,
except
yeah.
our timeline is not 10 years,
That's
right?
right,
You know,
yeah.
there's like
Yeah.
a light, you can see the light
Yeah.
at the end of the
Yeah.
tunnel with, but you know, it's a few years of that, of feeling like you're always needed. And for me, I have littles, and it's a weird feeling when you're by yourself, and even if you don't have your husband or you don't have kids, you're like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Like, take a nap? Like, I don't know, I'm not really sure.
It's a social model that works for anybody who's in a caregiving situation. And that is true. I mean, a lot of us don't even identify as caregivers. I know I didn't. I thought I left careers in order to be Gary's caregiver. You know, I left while working overseas in community development. I left my job with the park system to take care of my littles. So through my life, I left freelance writing for a while to take care of my mother, who died of kidney and heart failure. And I never realized I added up all my caregiving years, which have been more than half of my lifetime.
Yeah.
But no one ever qualified that for me or quantified that for me and praised me or gave me kudos for all the years of caregiving that I did. I thought they were distractions from what life was about and what was purposeful, to coming to this point where I realized that they are among my most precious years. Taking care of my children, now my grandchildren, taking care of my mother, taking care of my husband. They haven't been distractions or side bars to my life. They've actually been integral parts of a quality life of care.
Well, I know somebody who's watching the whole thing, and I think you're going to get a well done, my good and faithful servant.
you.
So I'm tearing up now just thinking about that. Was so beautiful what you just said. So I think what you guys are doing is amazing and super important, and I just thank you.
Aw,
We thank you too.
thank you
for
with all of our hearts.
starting with the littles. You just never know where it's going to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Good
Thanks.
job.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. For more information, you can go to crecidaho.com. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you again soon.